from the New York Times, how did San Francisco become the city in a doom loop? Now, one might argue that New York is also in a doom loop, but different story. A conversation with Jesse Barron, who wrote about a high-profile attack in San Francisco and about worries over the city's future. Now, this article is a little bit older, from November 29th, 2023, and they highlight some high-profile crimes, right? Big billionaire, millionaire tech CEOs or whatever who get attacked. And we all know just how terrible San Francisco is. It is national, worldwide news. But imagine how down bad you have to be to actually get worse. This is from the San Francisco Chronicle. Oakland's downtown is struggling, and experts worry the outlook could be worse than in San Francisco. So while San Francisco is even with the migrant crisis in New York, the despair in San Francisco is making national, if not worldwide news, of course, and Oakland is even worse. They say, when Starwood Capital Group spent nearly $500 million on a trio of prominent office towers blocks from Lake Merritt in 2019, the Miami-based private equity firm was one of many institutional investors who saw long-term potential in downtown Oakland. Years of economic growth had paved the way for new construction, a burgeoning office market, an influx of new businesses, and residents fleeing the high cost and oversaturation of other Bay Area cities, notably San Francisco. Multiple individuals with insight into Starwood's investment have confirmed that the firm has surrendered the towers to its lender. So they put up all this money, $500 million to be exact, and only a handful of years later, 5 years later, I suppose, they say it's just not worth it, along with several other businesses who have been hugely successful, notably In-N-Out Burger, which is not downtown Oakland, but like I said, it's all terrible. But the crime corridor near the airport, the Hagenberger area, is arguably worse than the rest of the city, if that's even possible. Deutsche Bank and the buildings at 1901 Harrison, 2100 Franklin, and 2101 Webster Streets are expected to be sold. If recent real estate transactions in San Francisco are an indication, Starwood's towers would likely sell well below their 2019 values. Both Starwood and Deutsche Bank declined to comment on the situation. So I guess on one hand, everything's totally overpriced, but they have destroyed it. And you got Kevin O'Leary out there talking about, oh, New York is a loser state, California is a loser state.
New York was already a loser state, like California is a loser state.
And they are proving it day after day. Now, right? So you have, of course, the political thugs along with the regular community, resident, citizen thugs that make it impossible for anything to happen smoothly. The foreclosures are the latest trouble for downtown Oakland's business ecosystem, and they raise further questions about its post-pandemic recovery in a region where commercial real estate has played a vital role in powering downtown economies. For years, Oakland's selling point for companies and residents priced out of high-cost markets like San Francisco has been its affordability, but the price gap is closing amid plummeting values in San Francisco. So they even they note how terrible San Francisco is, and you can go into the SF Gate and other publications. This one doesn't have the weirdo ads, but there's ads for San Francisco. Oh, shop. There's still businesses here. Come shop here. Come to San Francisco. Support local business. Just begging people to come back, even though we've destroyed everything. And as soon as you see a mural, they're all over the place. But when you see a mural, it's bad news. And we're at the point now where they're also painting huge murals of Greta in San Francisco. And if that's not cult-like, I don't know what is. Vacancy across Oakland's crop of shiny downtown office high-rises was at an all-time high of 30.2 last year. So vacancies was at an all-time high of 30.2 last year. In 2019, just 8.8% of offices in the business district were vacant. So that's a lot, right? So that's almost 3 times the vacancy rate, because it's It's literally not safe. That's why you got Kaiser issuing warnings. That's why you got Clorox providing extra security. I think even Mayor Shang Tao, who of course is facing a recall, has also announced some new security for another business there. It's absolutely wild. Per data provided by real estate firm CBRE. Meanwhile, several storefronts of varying sizes in the city's business district have been empty for years. Oakland's cultural diversity and unique unique offering of restaurants, most of which are closed, notably, well, of course, the huge story is In-N-Out, but La Cheval, a delicious Vietnamese restaurant I believe I used to go to as a kid, that also closed, was not nationwide news, but the locals know that even that place closing was not a good sign. I mean, they haven't had any good signs for several years, and shout out Richie Rich, right, Oakland legend, who says he's leaving California, and cited the closing of La Cheval notably as one of the reasons.
Yeah, I don't even need you to see me with this shit I'm finna be talking, but I'm gonna tell you something. Yeah, people hitting my line, talk about, man, where you going? Where you going? Out of California? The fuck out of California? Yeah, California is on its way down the drain. You hear me? Yeah, your local legislators, your motherfucking state legislation, they selling this motherfucker dirt cheap. You understand me? Yeah, they giving immigrants benefits. You hear me? They giving checks to homeless people, bro. I'm not against immigrants. I'm not against homeless people. But they not giving me no motherfucking checks. The schools is fucked up. They not teaching the kids nothing. They not paying the teachers to teach the kids nothing. Yeah, my favorite restaurant, La Cheval, out of here. My favorite football team, the Oak Raiders, out of here. Favorite basketball team, Warriors, out of here. Favorite baseball team, A's, out of here. Yeah, man, everybody is getting the fuck out of California, me included.
But I digress. Oakland's cultural diversity and unique offering of restaurants, murals, yeah, and the murals, look, you can have a nice mural. I'm sure there's nice murals all over the place, but when they're trying to put lipstick on a pig is exactly what's happening. Hip-hop and DIY fashion design have long been part of its charm. Its downtown office towers sit among historic buildings and within walking distance of housing, shops, and transportation. But the lack of activity in the streets during weekday business hours is putting pressure on the city's merchants and is compounded by worsening perceptions around safety in recent years. Is it just the perception, or could you go talk to the people who have been robbed? Can you talk to the people who have had their cars broken in? The businesses that are getting broken into basically once a week?
An Oakland restaurant is considering shutting down after being broken into and robbed 4 times this year alone.
It's just insane, and they want to pretend it's the perception of safety. Last year, reports of violent incidents citywide rose 21% from 2022, which I think has a little bit to do with Mayor Shang Tao, but of course, she's not going to wear that. Though the city is not at the heights of violent crime it experienced in past decades. So, yeah, I mean, it's been bad before, right? And you see this with CNN, they were talking about inflation, and they're like, well, this sort of thing happened all the way back in the Great Depression and the financial crash of 2008, so it's not your first go-around, it's totally normal. While downtown, this trajectory mirrors the recent struggles of San Francisco, while downtown San Francisco's recovery remains elusive 4 years after the pandemic. So yeah, we destroyed everything, and now we want to, crack down on crime and let cars on Market Street, but it's just not coming back. I mean, you literally destroyed it on purpose, and now you're pretending that you want to bring it back, but it's just too late. The market for these highly concentrated financial or technology centers of employment, at least in the medium term, won't be seeing a total return. Yeah, so that's a nice way of saying it's over. And I've been saying that for the longest time. But at least in the medium term, not short term, not long term, but medium term, which literally means in the next decade, it's not going to get any better. And I've said this a million times. If they did everything correct yesterday, it would still take a decade. So in the medium term, it's not coming back is the politically correct way to say that it's over. Said Lee Hansen, chief of staff for Oakland Mayor Shang Tao. We need to be nimble in terms of responding to that, but also not overreacting. Yeah, so don't think too much about it. Lenders and institutional investors were previously eager to fuel Oakland's economic development, are taking a big step back. Well, obviously, because it's just not worth it. For Deutsche Bank, Starwood's lender, it's also funny how when you talk about, oh, Donald Trump and his lenders and he's committing fraud, but none of these people, none of these political thugs, these hacks are ever going to face any repercussions for the damage that they've done to these places. Quite obviously, because it's on purpose. It's part of the plan. So that's the communist takeover in action. Every single thing, they come at you from all angles, whether it's financial or whether it's the weirdo gender agenda or whether it's the, oh, stop driving cars and we're going to change. There was a story even from a couple weeks ago where an oil refinery in the Bay Area was going to go green or something, but their plan to transition to more green energy wasn't green enough. So they stopped that. It's a lose-lose. Office is a distressed asset. They're taking a cautious view, more conservative than average, the person said, adding that Deutsche Bank is very cautious about taking on new clients and devoting resources to both San Francisco and Oakland markets. Of course, Los Angeles as well, the entire state of California, to put it lightly. With a new plan to guide downtown's future released on Friday, Oakland officials hope to decouple the city's economy from San Francisco's, though zoning changes, incentives, and other efforts they envision as not only spurring development, but also protecting Oakland's arts and cultural assets and ensuring affordability to its stakeholders. So yeah, they're doing it. They're assuring, when they say assuring affordability, that means they're going to put caps on things, which they should, because it's not, I shouldn't say they should, but it is far too expensive to live in a cesspool, but they've destroyed everything. Now they want to also, so they've destroyed everything and then control the pricing on everything as part of the ushering in of communism, further ushering in. But when the investment needed to implement this sweeping plan will return is an open question. Some say downtown's recovery could be accelerated if the city focuses on crime and quality of life issues that are hurting businesses. Yeah, probably, right? So, and the cops, Oakland finally has a police chief, and they may or may not be making arrests, but Pamela Price, the Alameda County DA, who is also facing a recall, is just letting those people back out. There's even stories of like some of the criminals referring to Pamela Price as like Auntie Pam and stuff. Like, the criminals know what they can get away with. But yes, to put it lightly, if you focus on crime and quality of life issues, then it might start to return, which speaks directly to my point. If you started doing everything correctly yesterday, it would still take a decade. From a physical standpoint, downtown looks the best it has ever looked because there's nothing left down there. So from afar, it looks good, maybe, but it's all empty when you get close. All of the Class A office towers are done, and it has more residential than ever, said East Bay office broker Scott Greenwood. For the first time in its history, we are not on the come anymore. I'm not quite sure what that's supposed to mean. On a recent morning, Greenwood, a senior vice president at CBRE, eyed the San Francisco skyline from his firm's 18th floor suite located inside of one of Oakland's premier office towers at 1111 Broadway. It's not even close to an exaggeration to say that between 2017 and 2019, downtown Oakland was significantly more vibrant at night than downtown San Francisco. Greenwood said the problem is there's no one living in downtown San Francisco, and there's likely no one living in downtown Oakland either. While Oakland's nightlife surged, fueled by multiple theaters, clubs, and street festivals and diverse dining options, San Francisco leaned heavily on its office real estate and tech's expansion into downtown to power the city's economy, to its own detriment. More than a third of its downtown offices, which encompass nearly 80 million square feet, sit vacant as a result of tech layoffs and the rising popularity of remote work, which, of course, you had a huge hand in. The city had close to 36% office vacancy rate at the end of last year, up from single digits in 2019. Office rents have dropped significantly, and San Francisco's office market has shifted into something it hasn't been for a long time. One where tenants have the power and negotiating leverage, not the landlords. But nobody's gonna take it. Nobody's gonna fill it up. You just told us that it's a liability. But at the height of the city's tech boom, space was tight and expensive, and companies were looking to Oakland for relief. Oakland was always your traditional stepsister market to San Francisco, said Anthony Schell, executive vice president for real estate brokerage Colliers. He said that the city was long home to nonprofits and professional service firms, and therefore somewhat impervious to past downturns affecting the tech sector. That changed when tech entered the equation. There were a lot of tech employees who would try to buy homes in the East Bay and raise families there. And so for a desire to be close to those population centers, tech companies would look to open offices in Oakland much more frequently, Schell said. In the early years of the Oakland migration trend, local and regional investors began to snatch up the city's older office buildings and renovate them in hopes of landing venture capital-backed tenant at higher rents. Later in the cycle, we began seeing institutional capital come into the market to buy Class A buildings with a similar focus on improving them to attract tech tenants, Schell said, referring to investment funds that chased newer office buildings in desirable locations. Developers and investors responded to the influx of demand for space with new development at the start of 2018. More construction activity was underway in downtown. Look, how long does this go on? They're just rambling, and all this to say, look, it doesn't even matter. The last couple paragraphs do not matter, but all of this to say that as bad as San Francisco is...
You guys worried about consequences like from the police out here?
What? San Francisco doesn't believe in crime. What are you talking about? You know what I'm saying? Shout out the DA, though. Oh, shout out London Breed, too.
You've got Oakland right across the bridge, and it's even worse.